𝗬𝗶𝗴, is there anyone maybe you have on your mind for potentially taking it all the way home today?
Ooh, that's a good question. I mean, obviously, you know, smart money would be betting on Plat, but I do like some of the underdogs that we've got running in here. And honestly, I think that Turbo being where it is and Rishi and Ali facing off against each other early, I actually have a good feeling on either of them making it into the finals.
Okay, yeah, I was thinking Ali as well. You know, obviously, as you said, the safe picks are, you know, Rishi, Turbi, 𝗬𝗵𝗶. Those are the big boys. Those are the ones that have done it in the past. So, of course, they have exactly what it takes to do it again. Well, let's see. One Temtem that we didn't get to see too much plays in our top 8 recently is 𝗏𝗠𝗠s. What do you think about that Temtem quarter?
It's an interesting thing seeing it alive in this environment because block got hit. A lot of the recovery moves are, and well, specifically gears as well, have been hit as well. Like, I don't believe 𝗃𝗏𝗃 directly got hit, but you know, Benefactor got hit, loss of Stonewall on Kinu. So Joseu's team here is definitely looking like it's gonna have to deal with things in a new light. We do, however, have 2 mental synergies on this team, though. So one of the standard things you see with 𝗏𝗠𝗠s is still totally possible here, which is just digi threat the opposition. The question is, with block nerf and everything else, is it going to be able to have that sustain? We do immediately see, of course, the Vola and the Nid bans here, though. So like Nid stopping, so that's stopping, you know, Bark Shield and a bunch of stuff like that, and some annoying pivots. So hopefully that should be something that allows Joseu a little bit more oomph into this, because he does have some bite on this team.
Yeah, definitely so. And yeah, that Volarinn, we do know Turbi likes a lot of his toxic heavy Temtem, just like 𝗬𝗵𝗶 in the past. But here we go. The Turok does get picked up nice and early for that blue side. Does Joseu try to cover all his bases? Where is he leading towards? All right, we get the Kinu Rotor to get things started. And now with his counter pick, looking like Volarinn doesn't seem too scary. 𝗏𝗠𝗠k is okay, but you might have to bear the force of those beta bursts, right? So I do think that Volarinn potentially better. Maybe even the 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏s doesn't feel all that bad. Let's see what he ends up picking.
𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏s is a little curious into the roller, just because if Joseu just decides to go face into that, the low base defense of 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏s could bite you there. But you're not wrong in that. That's a very aggressive pick. I do think that Vola is the safest option here, though, and that is what Turbi goes for.
Yeah, so nice little pickup, has some good damage on the Kinu, and you know, nice little feather gattlings. We've seen in the past, right? Wait a minute. Turbi usually going for anaerobic, but most Volarins in today's tournament has been aerobic. Have you kept eye on that quarter, or we might just be finding out together, huh?
I haven't actually seen what Turbi's running on his, but I'm assuming that it's like, this looks like a purgation setup almost. Like, obviously you got the Nox bomb in on the Kinu right now, but given the fact that purgation's of course got that juicy +2 now, a +2 buff onto that Turok into this team is looking positively scrumptious.
Oh, definitely, for sure. We'll see if he just starts that off as early as turn 1. That will be good indeed. But all right, the 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏s does catch the ban. It looks like even though he has some good answers for it in terms of like that Minotaur looking good, the 𝗏𝗠𝗠s seemed like it done some decent damage. Even the Tokon Tornadoes, but yeah, that fast Aquatic Whirlwind is not something you want to deal with. But a Temtem that does seem good into the entire, not entire team, but into most of the Temtems from Joseu. It is that Inky, right? The 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏s doesn't love it. The Tokon doesn't love it. Even the Minotaur doesn't really love it all that much. So I think this is a nice little pick from Turbi, and not a pick we see too often from these players, right? Inky a bit underrepresented in the top 8.
Yeah, it's been picking up a bit, but it's in a funny spot, right? Because like Earths are obviously very strong right now. We see Rolder all over the place. 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏 has seen a surprising showing in this particular tournament as well. But it's juxtaposed by the fact that obviously Turbi's got the 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏s and the 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏 on the team to just and the 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 to absolutely hose opposing Earths, which is like, you know, the primary thing you would be facing, that you would be dreading with an Inky. So then you're pretty fine just throwing Thunderstrikes out. It looks like this is going to be a Spec Master Inky, right?
I believe that's what we saw. Yeah. Yeah, I'm interested as well, but let's see how Joseu decides to close things out. It looks like the Minotaur could do potentially more damage against the Volarinn, the 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, maybe the Black Hole on 𝗏𝗠𝗠𝗏𝗏𝗏, but he's hovering over the 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏s, and he does end up picking it up. So interesting enough. Let's see how it ends up working out. It will be the game number 1 of our quarterfinals. So of course, let's jump right into this very first turn.
Absolutely, and we of course see the delightful seal on Turbi's 𝗬𝗵𝗶 there, leading us off. As we mentioned in pick ban, there's the options, of course. I mean, Kinu's a bit threatened here. We do have a good defensive pivot there, but not really. Like, Tolkien doesn't Tolkien eats the Nox bomb if push comes to shove, but it doesn't really like staring down a Turok. 𝗂𝗵𝗵 absolutely can't come in on a board of 2 wins, and 𝗵𝗵 doesn't really feel like it's doing very much on this board. So Joseu's a little bit locked into this board, in my opinion. It's like challenging for him to make an appropriate pivot there.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. We'll see who he decides to target down. I think this is the correct play, right? Focusing down the Volarant, because you do have some Temtems in the back for the Turok, but the Noxious Bomb doing over 50% on the Kinu, and it is an anaerobic quarter, so we get our answer nice and early, but it looks like he splits here so far.
That's interesting. I guess it makes sense because, I mean, you know, you're pretty confident you're killing the Kinu in 2 hits. Unless it's sacrificing, it's not really going to get too much extra value there. Worth noting, it is outspeeding, so if it's got some sleep control or something like that, that could be something that comes into play this turn. Obviously, the anaerobic procs, we see that it's sweatband as well, so there's no strange vests here. That is a common setup with anaerobic Valorant, obviously. So that does mean that it's going to be better into that 𝗵𝗵𝗶 and the Tolkien in the back, but the Rolder is going to be pretty spooky for it.
Definitely, considering the fact that it has a protector buff as well, right? We saw how much damage a simple drill impacted. Now the Goring could be coming his way. I don't know if a 1-2 punch again, the Beta Burst plus the Goring, going to be taking it down because of that defense increase. But all right, the 𝗵𝗵𝗶 does make its first appearance in our quarterfinals. The Goring does come out 55 down to 23, so just one more of those, it will be taking it down. But you know, the Noxious Bomb should still be some decent damage and a little bit under 20, so not all that much.
I mean, 𝗵𝗵𝗶 is still henge if you build it, right? So that does check out right there. Oh boy, it's a building blocks one too. So this thing's probably like just all bulk.
Yeah, it's going to be impressively hard to take it down, because if we look on the entire team for Turbi, what's the only... I'm only seeing... I mean, it takes what? Neutral from toxic, right? So there isn't any per se effective damage, right? Electric is still half from nature. Toxic, as we mentioned, is still half from digital. So 𝗵𝗵𝗶 is looking like a huge problem for the entire team of Turbi. You're just going to try to brute force your way, but of course, way easier said than done. And it looks like 𝗬𝗀𝗍 will be coming through. A little bit scary considering that the rotor is still on the board.
I mean, oh, well, there's our answer right there. Because you do have, of course, the Toxic Plume synergy. Rolder's still scary, but it's a lot less scary when you're staring down -2 attack, which, as we can see there, doesn't even take down the Valorant. 2.8% after that. Fiery Heist, on the other hand, whiffing into the 𝗬𝗵𝗶𝗶. A very unfortunate turn for Joseu.
Yeah, unfortunate indeed, and proper play. Turbi must have known that Fiery Heist was on that 𝗵𝗵𝗶, because swamping in that 𝗬𝗵𝗶𝗶, impressive stuff, doing nothing, as you said, a big old whiff. I love it from Turbi's side. But yeah, Joseu perhaps forgetting that the 𝗬𝗀𝗍 was a Crystal Temtem and the Toxic Plume was online, allowing Turbi's Volarant to survive for one more turn. Is it going to make a massive difference throughout the longevity of this game? Maybe not, but it could get one more attack, and these games come down to the very end, right? So one more attack could make that difference, and we'll see. It is at +6 special defense, but it doesn't really matter all that much, right? Any little attack coming in, it goes down, huh?
Exactly. I think the more important thing here is the fact that Turbi managed to get a attack debuff on the Rolder, which was already buffed. So like, Joseu's already invested into that. So now it's like you can kind of start ignoring that a bit more. Like the Held Anger is going to come off here, and I'm actually curious how much damage it's going to do to 𝗬𝗵𝗶𝗶. Not even 50% from the Held Anger off a Rolder. That's the power of Toxic Plume right there. -2 attack is just as strong now as it was back then. And as you said, you know, the extra amount of damage in on this Valorant, like you still got to get that extra attack in, which Joseu hasn't done. So now Valorant's free to get another attack off. The Roller's at barely any stam. It's at 13.4%. It's going to OX if it clicks Goring at this point, and it's staring down an Aquatic Whirlwind. 𝗂𝗵𝗶𝗶 can rotate in here, though, in the back. It's a really easy swap.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. It looks like that is probably the most straightforward play. So let's see if he goes ahead and clicks it. So yes, as you mentioned, the 𝗬𝗶𝗶 coming in, anticipating the aquatic whirlwind. Does the 𝗬𝗬𝗃 keep it straightforward? He goes for the water cannon on the moments, which is actually neutral damage since water is affected into the digital. But the feather Gatling reading the 𝗬𝗂𝗃 doing over a quarter damage and doesn't take anything from those toxic skin traits as well. But you know, you had to kill the Voldaren eventually, and it will be brought down right here, right now. So well done. It looks like the first Temtem will be favoring Joseu, but that Voldaren got massive value this game, right? Did some good damage on Kiinu, some good damage on moments, and that's the one Temtem you had to get some good damage off. But you know, something tells me if this Moments just goes ahead and retreats in the back line, that is virtually about 20% or so recovery still left because of those revitalized ticks still remaining, right? So maybe not completely all the way down just yet.
While I totally agree with you, what precisely is Joseu going to be swapping here? A combination of an inky 𝗬𝗂𝗃 board is threatening basically everything Joseu has. Quartz Dirt onto the Kiinu is like the only thing, like maybe it survives that because double screen and high base special defense, but that's still at 44%. I don't like those odds from Spec Master Inky. So it really turns into kind of like a guessing game for Joseu here of like what the safe play is, and if Turbi is just putting all his chips on the table and ignoring 𝗬𝗂𝗃 here, which he's within his rights to do, right? Like you can probably live one Toxic Ink for maybe a turn on 𝗬𝗂𝗃 from 60% is a little awkward, but it's possible. And you could just like throw into the moments here, and whatever's on that slot goes down. Probably.
I think so as well. So let's see. Turbi does throw it to the moments. It enters staying in, but the Thunderstrike deciding to go for the 𝗬𝗂𝗃. 75 all the way to a nice even 13. But let's see how he decided to react to these. Revitalize trying to keep the moments from a single toxic take. And oh, quarter, nice little strangle. So no aquatic whirlwinds for the falling turn, even though you probably didn't want to use it, right? I think he has to save that aquatic whirlwind for that rotor in the back line, or even the Tokon in the back line. So I wouldn't be too surprised to see Turbi swapping out the 𝗬𝗂𝗃, just because I feel like that's one Temtem that is going to be really, really helpful going forward, especially against those Temtems as we just mentioned.
For sure. There's something to be noted here, which is that Turbi doesn't necessarily have to shift his board yet, just because, as we've seen, like, it's all on Joseu to, like, react to this board. Since 𝗬𝗂𝗃 has the priority online, like, the moment the roller is out here, unless it's, like, a proper bait, like, you can just throw damage into the team at this point. The HP differential is absolutely favoring Turbi at this point. He has 3 Tems that are completely untouched, and he can just kind of throw into Joseu's board, which only has the Tolkien now really online. The Moments is running on fumes, the 𝗬𝗂𝗃 is looking really peaky, and both of his other Tems are either like near or under 50%. So just through pure attrition and the fact that Joseu's constantly been trying to reposition, Turbi's just been in a good spot and it's just kind of dancing here.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point, 𝗬𝗂𝗃 just quite literally just rested, right? It didn't want to overexert the following turn, making a move for virtually nothing, right? Just making sure Joseu has to swap in, swap out, as you mentioned. And now aquatic whirlwind will, I mean, it has been online for quite some time now, but of course now it looks like a proper time. Does he use it now? And he does. The rotor does it survive.
Oh my God.
It does. That's with the power of the Protector Kiinu buff.
But we do see the double in from Turbi, anticipating this and just going for the Thunderstrike as well, confirming the KO on the roller. The Moments, of course, forced to rest here as well, meaning there's really no repercussions for this, as now at least the Tolkien has space to enter the board here. The problem is, of course, we still have a 𝗬𝗂𝗃 staring it in the face. That's still really awkward for it.
Yeah, it wouldn't have Tornado online, of course, so yeah, that 𝗬𝗂𝗃 most likely a little bit faster than the wind burst coming out from the Tokon, so forced to bring in 𝗬𝗂𝗃. But as you mentioned before, it feels like Joseu a bit on the back foot, right? Just little by little losing that momentum, losing that advantage, if you will. And the Korgs, they're getting the double kill against Joseu. And yeah, it looks like things are slowly but surely getting out of hand. Just 2 more Temtems remaining. Did the Inky just overexert though? Because if the Inky overexert, it could, no, there's just no way, right? That aquatic whirlwind back online, even with that 30% reduction, I still think it might just do 100%, huh?
It's been death by 1,000 cuts, and even if Turbi loses this board, remember he's like immediately coming into this with a Turok and a 𝗵𝗂𝗽 untouched in the back, just ready to throw into this. That's assuming Joseu kills both slots here. The Inky is perfectly capable of taking down the Tolkien as well, and the Kinu. It can single-handedly maim both of those Tems if it has full stamina. So Turok's just hopping in here, ready to take the injuries there. The burn does save the Tolkien at almost exactly 25 there, as the 𝗧𝗲𝗺 will be just taking down that 𝗬𝗂𝗪 to burn. And it does look like there's a last-ditch effort here. If the Turbo can manage this, perhaps we'll see something here. There have been some KOs on Turbi's side. I just definitely agree with you that, you know, Joseu's back's against the wall here.
Yeah, you know, I do like this turbo. Perhaps Joseu has in mind, you try to hypnosis control one slot, and then now with the +3 speed, you have to pray that that 75% increase in speed, your fire tornado just went online, right? So that could be enough to get rid of the Inky, but are you faster, right? Is there a 3 prio play from this Jade Dragon, the Inky, taking it down? Or is the fire tornado just enough? We will see.
Man.
This is interesting.
If there's a DC beam on this Inky and it can take down the Tolkien from here, that would be some just top tier plays.
Yeah, you know, it is a special attack. I think DC beam is a special technique, right? If memory serves me right. So yeah, it could very well have that nice little DC beam. And you're right, I do think that could be enough to outspeed. But if this is a speedy Tolkien, DC beam is only 50% increase. Tolkien now has 75, right? So is there a world? He goes for fire.
Oh, there is a world.
Not enough.
But the camo saves it. Not enough though. The double in on Joseu's side this time, taking notes here, taking down the Inky. It does mean that, of course, the Turok has free reign to just sort of stomp all over this board. We do see the Stone Ball comes down. That will be taking down the Tolkien. So now it's Kinu against the world here, and the world in this case is, of course, a 𝗵𝗂𝗽 that can waste water it. Not what you want to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Well played. Very well played for Turbi, covering virtually all his bases throughout this match, making sure you kill the Tolkien just in case the 𝗵𝗂𝗽 has to come in. The tornadoes are no longer there, but GG. Game number 1 will be favoring Turbi.
Familiar with that very dominating playstyle.
Yeah, definitely. He's, you know, that's the thing about playing a team or playing a certain core for a very long time, right? You just really learn how your matchups go, and you just grow to have so much experience with that team, to your point. So yeah, 𝗵𝗂𝗍𝗺 is the epitome of that experience, and he's doing quite well for himself, as we see every single tournament in day in and day out, per se. So let's see if it's going to be the same bands. I believe. Oh no, it's not the full. What was the previous one? I think it was 𝗧𝗵𝗵 maybe.
Yep, it was the 𝗧𝗵𝗵 on Joseu's side. We still see the Vola band. Turbi knows what he wants here, but I'm interested in seeing whether getting rid of this Inky allows Joseu to like double down on the type distributions here, because that does make a lot of his team feel a lot safer. You know, the Tolkien, it's only threatened by the waters at this point, but there's a lot of waters to deal with, right? Like, we still have the Platypus and the 𝗬𝗂𝗪. It's not exactly a free ride.
Yeah, definitely not whatsoever. But now Joseu does have that blue side, so you get that early advantage counter pick. Let's see if he makes the most out of it. He's hovering over the Minotaur, which, as we mentioned, does fare a good amount of damage to a lot of the team, right? 𝗬𝗂𝗪, Platypus, 𝗵𝗂𝗪, Volarin, even 𝗬𝗂𝗪 if you get that, the Black Hole online as well. So I do like that. And you know, the only thing that kind of checks it would be the Turok or the 𝗬𝗂𝗪. But starting things off, this is kind of like the straightforward thing, right? You have a protector Kinu, and then you just let your opponent decide, and then you try your best to try to counter that opening.
Oh yeah, it's a really easy pick for blue side, right? Because I mean, it also kind of helps inform you as to what your opposing player is going to go for. Because as you can see here, it makes sense for Turbi to pick something that's still strong-ish into Kinu. Like, he's got all these toxics just waiting in the wings, and having the bark shield ready for some of these physical Tems still behooves Turbi here. Well, obviously, you know, your A spread from 𝗏𝗏𝗺𝗃𝗃𝗃 and everything like that's going to be pretty nice too.
Oh, definitely. And man quarter, what meta are we in? Is this really the Kinu Gyalis opener?
Oh my
that
God.
reminds me of the good old 𝗏𝗏𝗺𝗃𝗃 days, huh?
It really does, especially since I keep feeling like, you know, we're on the cusp of seeing Resistant start to become the dominant trade again if people really want to start playing with Heater Tolkien, right? But we'll have to see what Joseu's going for here, whether he's got that kind of a vibe going, or did we see whether this was mirroring already?
I'm not too sure. I don't recall if it was or was not. Well, we'll definitely be finding out as early as that opening turn. But yeah, I'm willing to bet it was mirroring. But you know, there was a player that it did some special attack damage and then it didn't go down. It might have been Joseu, so he could be working with the resistance, which might not be too good for things like that 𝗧𝗪𝗀 with those allergic spreads. However, even if it is mirroring, most mirroring 𝗬𝗀𝗪s do have that bait, right? So if allergic spread does end up connecting, at least the bait will be proccing. So 𝗬𝗀𝗪s is looking fantastic in this board. Just has to be a bit careful because 𝗬𝗂𝗏 does tend to add quite the punch, but with that +1 special defense, it's going to be nullifying a bit of those attacks, right? So not too shabby. Yeah. So we'll see how it ends up playing out.
Okay, so we do see the 𝗵𝗵 ban again on Joseu's side, respecting a lot of these waters that are looking very frightening indeed. 𝗏𝗏𝗺 banned out by Turbi, though. I believe we did see that last game as well. Actually, no, it just wasn't picked. It was just kind of vibing. I remember you commenting on that. So it's interesting seeing it actually just removed, which I suppose is because the Inky's out. So there's no immediate counter to the 𝗏𝗏𝗺 existing here.
Yeah, definitely. Let's see what he decides to pick up on the last two pickups. You know, he ended up going for the 𝗬𝗏𝗺 moments in the previous game. But alright, does this decide he needs a good answer against the 𝗧𝗪𝗀, right? Against the 𝗧𝗪𝗀, he didn't have too much clean answers, so he needs that win techniques. And now it feels a lot pressured out against the 𝗫𝗫𝗃, right? I guess you just have to try to pick up the 𝗬𝗏𝗃 perhaps, but 𝗬𝗏𝗃 feeling a bit lackluster against the 𝗬𝗏𝗃, I would say. So this feels like a rougher pick for Turbi. I almost want to say the pick band's kind of favoring Joseu in this matchup, but of course you still have to play the entirety of this game number 2, so nothing set in stone whatsoever, of course.
I definitely agree with you there. It's looking like a better draft for Joseu than the previous one. And obviously, Kiinu Gyalis, getting that protector on there, getting your helicopter turn 1. It's a stronger opening board, I think, as well. We definitely saw from the last game that Turbi doesn't really have any reason to respect moments, so it's also good to see that Joseu's adapting to that and trying to bring more Tems that require Turbi's attention. We immediately see the Kiinu swap, anticipating some heavy damage on that side, as the 𝗬𝗏𝗺 is going to hop in, which is also, of course, going to scare the pants out of that 𝗬𝗂𝗏 for turn 2. Is that water cannon going to land in there? No, it's on the 𝗬𝗪𝗀𝗃. We get to find out this turn as you suspected, and it is resistant.
Ooh. So,
which makes sense.
Wait, it's a resistance with the bait just for the Invigorize. Okay, interesting. Gets off the nice little hook kick, doing about core damage on the 𝗬𝗂𝗏, but anticipating the Kiinu, or didn't anticipate it rather, going straight forward for the Kiinu on that Toxic Ink. So proper swap out, bringing the 𝗬𝗏𝗃 in, and now this 𝗬𝗂𝗏 is feeling the pressure, right? The water cannon didn't do all that much because of the protector proc, right? So Aquatic Whirlwind very far away from taking it all the way down. So the pressure, I will say, is on Turbi, right? C-Bite into Toxic Ink, virtually going to take it all the way down. So what do we think he might be swapping into here?
I mean, Turbi does have a lot of good defensive options if he wants to swap 𝗬𝗂𝗏 right now. One of the issues with Joseu trying to press with, like, unless this 𝗬𝗏𝗺 has a water move that's really easy to click, it's like, is it going to be 𝗫𝗫𝗃 or is it going to be Turok? Since it's the 𝗫𝗃, if this is C-Bite, that's great. But instead, Joseu's swapping. All right, he swaps into the Kiinu.
Yeah, perhaps anticipating that 𝗫𝗃. Joseu playing quite well. The Flood coming in just to decrease those speeds. They were already a little bit on the slower side. But alright, eating 𝗧𝗏𝗺 a little bit better than that 𝗬𝗀𝗪𝗀 would have. Or perhaps not, but still neutral damage coming through. But more importantly, Joseu does have some good damage on the 𝗫𝗃 the following turn, right? Beta burst coming through. But that could go both ways, right? A John Cena 𝗫𝗃 coming in with the Wastewaters. Not looking too clean for the Kiinu, I will add. So we'll see good damage across both sides. This is almost a little bit of a stalemate, except for that little right-hand side.
Yeah, I feel like it's a little awkward if Joseu wants to pivot again, and I do hope he doesn't fall into the trap of, like, continuing to try to reposition. I feel like Turbi's just going to force him to take those trades and just, like, pick off. As you say, like, the Kiinu slot here is a bit exposed. If we see, I don't know, an allergic spread or a toxic into that, alongside, say, like, uppercut or wastewater from 𝗫𝗃, that's still looking pretty spooky there. I'm assuming Joseu is probably gonna keep. It's a really good Tolkien board actually, so we could potentially see like defensive move on Kinu, swap for 𝗂𝗵𝗵 into Tolkien. That slot's kind of getting ignored. Really easy for Tolkien to just come in there, scare the pants off of everything, snipe, I don't know, tornado off an opportunistic target here. Maybe Hypno this turn if that's not the case.
Yeah, let's see. We did say the Tolkien looks good, but no, Joseu think about the 𝗬𝗧𝗵𝗵 just in case it was a little bit too obvious for Turbi. But everything's staying in, so Kinu will be the first to move, hypnotizing that 𝗬𝗪𝗺𝗃, so down he goes just for this turn and the next turn. Allergic spread, perhaps knowing that that was coming through, brings in that bait 𝗬𝗧𝗵𝗵, so no Toxicics today. But you know, again, doesn't seem like a whole lot of damage, and that's a funny thing to say considering that 𝗬𝗧𝗵𝗵 does have a whole lot of damage. It's just these Temtems being pairing Mashuk, and just a nice little tanky Yggdrasil is just not going to be too easy to take these Temtems down. If we were Joseu though, where are we focusing our attention? Because both of these kind of get dealt with that Tokon in the back line. So I'm not too sure. Yggdrasil has the lower stamina, but John Cena is resting now, so you don't want to wake it up because you probably are going to be outspeeding it as we saw the previous turn. So this looks like a trickier turn for Joseu.
Well, we do see the turbo come off from the Kinu as well, so this 𝗬𝗧𝗵𝗵 is getting jacked, as the Crystal Bite is going to be landing it on the Yggdrasil, bringing it to roughly half. It's respectable. At this point, the bait's run off now, so we will be seeing 2 poison takes apply onto the 𝗬𝗧𝗵𝗵 from this. Fun fact with the resistant here, this does mean that the 𝗬𝗧𝗵𝗵 is not going to get burned if the Tolkien swaps in, so this could be a good turn for that to happen.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, does Turbi recognize that the Tokon for the past 1 to 2 turns has been looking quite well into that board? So when is Turbi going to potentially catch that read and maybe swap into 𝗬𝗂𝗏? But it could be quite dangerous, as we've said in the past. 𝗬𝗂𝗏 just such a great Temtem against the rotor, against the Tokon, so you just don't want to bring it into something like a Crystal Bite. Of course, he just used it the previous turn, but something like a hook kick will still be doing a whole lot of damage on the 𝗬𝗂𝗏, so perhaps you want to be a bit careful with it and maybe just keep trying to take down maybe that Kinu spot with something just as straightforward as a Toxic Ink. We'll see.
You make a good point. Honestly, I think until Joseu puts his money where his mouth is and actually like puts the token on the board, Turbi has no reason to change this board up. As we've seen, the 𝗬𝗧𝗵𝗵, his best defensive threat, is just kind of like, it's not doing bad damage. It's good chip onto the Nid, but like there needs to be something that changes here. We do see the 𝗬𝗵𝗵 hitting the board again. But in the meantime, like Turbi's just happy sitting here and letting Joseu do all this swapping and just, you know, keep smacking him.
Alright, and the switches, as we said, not Turbi's side, it will be on Joseu's side, so double a swap, and catching the rotor with that affected damage. Of course, the reactive valve coming up and away, anticipating the Toxic, as we mentioned in the past. So proper swap outs, and now the rotor does take half effective damage from those Toxics. I say that, but of course it is nullified right now, so it's gonna be neutral damage, but it should be packing the punch. So Yggdrasil running out of stamina, things like Goring should be chunking it quite a bit. I dare say maybe Drill Impact plus the Goring and maybe like a neutral Toxic Ink. I dare say that might just be enough to bring the Nid down. How does Turbi want to try to work around that? Because he has some good answers in the backline to this board, but no, everything just stays put. It looks like he's just using Yggdrasil as a little bit of a beat stick, or the synergy with the Ursul. 50% virtually taken off of this rotor. That is impressive.
Turbi is going hard on poison ticks with this team, and it is delightful to see. The Strangle is going to impede a bit of this, but the problem is, you know, you don't have to be taking actions to apply you know, deal damage with poison ticks you've already applied. And as you say, like, you know, Turbi has no reason to change this up, right? This Yggdrasil's already gotten tons of value, just kind of sitting here and sniping away at things, as we've seen by the 𝗬𝗧𝗵𝗵 that's now at 33%, and the little bits of chip we have all over this board. If that finally gets knocked down, it's pretty straightforward for the Valoran to come in and just do the same thing. That's kind of the fun thing I like about Turbi's team, is you can just kind of line things up.
Yeah, definitely just little by little. That just goes to show how effective these toxic ticks are, right? It's a massive amount of number when you add things up. 12.5%. Considering that allergic spread does 3 of those, Urushield does 4 of those with the synergy. So yeah, very, very impressive. But the drill impact, can it close it out? I don't think so, but down to 6%.
Oh, it's just not enough.
Yeah, the spores catching the Kinu doesn't kill this next turn, but does overexert. And as you mentioned, Core, this 𝗧𝗏 got an immense amount of value this game number 2, huh? Just back-to-back toxic ticks, adding the synergy on top of that. It's been quite the Temtem, I will say. And, you know, it's just been chilling there since, I believe, turn 1 or maybe even turn 2. Impressive.
Yeah, it's just been popping off. There's not much else to say about it. It's Joseu hasn't really, because the Tolkien never hit the board, there's never really been a reason for Turbi to change up this strat. So, you know, if Joseu's going to hit in with attacks that aren't necessarily pressuring Turbi too hard, you know, it's entirely in Turbi's court to just be like, okay, cool, I'm just going to steadily, you know, death by 1,000 cuts this, which is similar to what we saw the last game, but in this case, it's been a bit more of a grind and less of a jab.
Yeah, definitely a little bit more steady, slow and steady gets the race done, right? So 𝗧𝗏 finally retreating. It looks like for a similar type Temtem, it will be that 𝗧𝗏 coming in. Let's see the resin trap on the 𝗂𝗏. This should be doing quite the number, about 50% damage done right there, trapping it in. Does the rotor try to follow that up? But that is a bait 𝗂𝗏, so no longer trapped in, and it will have a couple stamina to work with, but the held anger gonna be making sure that it's just a 1 more hit away, potentially just a nice little goring hit if Tardy Rush comes online this next turn.
Yeah, goring would definitely do it from that percentage. Quick noteworthy thing once again, this is we've finally done it. The Tolkien has hit the board. Stop the presses. Actually, I'm still really excited about this because at this point, the 𝗂𝗏𝗺's kind of out of position here. By the time it sort of hops in, if Joseu plays his cards right, he can actually kind of catch it off guard. He still has a full health 𝗂𝗏𝗺 in the back. Like it's not all doom and gloom for Joseu. I will mention, of course, you know, we have that 𝗃𝗁 as well, kind of scary. And Turbi, once again, is just kind of not caring here. He's just going to bring in the 𝗧𝗏 and let Joseu wear himself out on these Tems so he can then just bring in the ones he actually cares about for free, eliminating the concern of that being out of position business.
Oh.
Noteworthy, though, Aquatic isn't online because there wasn't any hard swap.
Yeah, that is a little bit of a problem, but however, this is an open playing field for Turbi, right? 𝗂𝗏𝗺 coming in, as following that up with either the Valorant or the John Cena 𝗧𝗏 as well. It doesn't look too bad. I mean, there's only the 𝗂𝗏𝗺s or the 𝗂𝗏𝗺s to come forward, so I'm not too sure. It looks like the 𝗂𝗏𝗺s does get picked up just to try to do a little bit more damage before going out. But there it goes, the infamous 𝗃𝗏𝗺 opener. But now it's over here in the mid game. As you mentioned, a quad world when not online, but what is online is that impressive Tokon Tornado, right? So I'm wondering, Tornado with the sharp stab, is that enough to take down 76% from this 𝗂𝗏𝗺? It might be really close.
I think that is the best option Joseu has here. My question is, how does Turbi respond to that? So, like, if we assume that this is the best of all possible worlds and that both goes off and outspeeds the 𝗂𝗏𝗺 on both of those, that leaves just the Valorant to really throw damage in this turn. I don't think that 𝗓𝗏𝗵𝗆, which usually doesn't run a lot of attack, it is Sweatband 𝗃𝗁, so it might have a bit more. No, we don't see the tornado.
Oh, you know what? We're getting word here. I believe someone has told us that Aquatic was online, but it looks like he didn't click it perhaps, but maybe it wasn't. We might have to look back, but instead goes for the water cannon on the 𝗂𝗏𝗺s. Those toxic ticks, that's only 9.8%.
He was in on turn 1.
Oh, true. You're very right. So Aquatic was online, which is why Joseu retreated, but it looks like Turbi playing those mind games perfectly well, ignoring the Tokon, and now, Quarter, there's nowhere for the Tokon to run. The heater trait is no longer there, so I'm fairly certain 95% is more than possible from this 𝗂𝗏𝗺, depending on that special attack investment, but most 𝗂𝗏𝗺s being hydrologists should be packing a massive amount of punch on this Tokon. So it looks like Turbi just has the tools and might just take it home here.
I think you're entirely on the money. As we can see, that just bopped the token into next week, and at this point, you can just kind of steadily whittle away at the 𝗂𝗶𝗶. You have 3 Tems, and one of them has perfect jab.
And yeah, that definitely should close things out, considering the simple fact that Vulran is still at 100% HP, and the 𝗂𝗏𝗃 just not wanting to go down. Can he get off a final Blizzard if he's running it, right? 𝗂𝗏𝗃 kind of fast compared to a 𝗂𝗏𝗃, but yeah, it is just all over. And Turbi, our #1 seed, is proving why he is our #1 seed, not dropping a single game yet. So